had to jump off there for a minute. So now I'm back. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any thoughts or questions or anything you'd like me to get into. If you don't know me, my name is Jeff. I'm a guitar teacher, also a guitar player. I've been playing forever, and I teach for GIT out in Hollywood. Although I don't live there anymore, but I taught there for years, and I still teach for them online. And I also teach for MI here in Nashville, which is where I live now. So I know quite a bit about music theory and different guitar stuff. So let me know if you'd like to talk about anything. Oh, this is lame. All right, first question. What steps would you recommend to become a good rhythm and lead rock guitarist? Well, you have to kind of see where you're at in your playing. If you're just starting, are you just beginning? Are you kind of been playing for a few years? Have you been playing for 10 years? How much time do you spend? But I think the number one thing to do is to learn songs. If you like, let's say, for example, you like ACDC. Yeah, thank you. Let's say you like ACDC or something like that. Learn some ACDC songs, play along. Now, the beautiful thing nowadays is you can find a lot of tracks, a lot of songs without the rhythm guitar on them. Like you could find backing track for like ACDC or something and play along to it. You know what I mean? And really work on, locking into the groove, So first, firstly, I'd buy a guitar. Okay, mixed onions. Yeah, if you don't have a guitar, that's a good start. Welcome back. Yeah, thanks, man. You had a traditional, but you prefer the slim taper neck. I used to have a classic. That was the Les Paul that I played before this. And I used to like thinner necks when I was younger, but over time, I keep kind of gravitating towards thicker necks. And I also have a Les Paul standard that is even thicker than this one. It's more of a 50s style. This one is kind of in between. You know what I mean? All right, cool. Yeah. Do I have any thoughts on minor 251s? Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Any Jonathan Quintero. Jonathan, did you ask a question I didn't see? Maybe. Do you have a question? A 251. Oh, I see. That's the same person. I know my glasses on. So, yeah. So first thing you want to do with 251s, whether it's major or minor. All right. So let's say you're in C minor. You're going to probably play D minor 7 flat 5. There's your 2 chord, G7, and then C minor. So the first thing I would do is arpeggiate through the chords. So that will kind of point out where the chord tones are. Do you know what I mean? Then you can look at adding in notes from the C minor scale. So over the D half diminished. There's a lot of things you could play here, but I'll start simple. You could just play C minor, which would be D Locrian. Now over the G, you could start with playing maybe C harmonic minor. And then C minor over the C. Simple. I'm not sure how far along you are, so it's hard to say, but I always start from the chords first. Get the chords, the arpeggios, so you know where the chord tones are, right? The more you are comfortable with the chord tones, the more stuff you can get away with, because yeah, let me see if I can find a 251 in C minor. So start with the arpeggios. That's where you start. That's step number one. I think I'm getting some hecklers on here or something. Can you show us in context? Okay, yeah. So there's a guitar versus piano. Who wins? Well, they're two different disciplines, I suppose. So that was a start, right? So there I just played the arpeggios of the chords. And that right there sounds good. You can make a lot of music with just that. You know what I mean? Right, so just start there. Now you can start adding in some of the scale tones if you want, you know, to get a little bit more notes. Right, yeah, so over the G7, I would use the harmonic minor scale. So when you play that G7 chord, it has a B natural in it. There's your C harmonic minor. Right? All right, let me do that. On Jamplay, you mentioned that before playing, you would analyze the song in order to know what position to stay. So could you elaborate on that? All right, so it's checked out my Jamplay course. Cool. So what I do is I do what I think I call position training, right? So I want to be fluent all over the neck, but maybe you've experienced this where you know pretty good this area and maybe you know one other area and then the rest of it's kind of gray. So my goal was always to be able to know the whole guitar and be able to flow around. So what I do is I work in positions. So like let's say if I start with the C minor chord, that's the key we're in, and I got a C minor chord here. And I go, well, where's that D minor 7 flat 5? There's one version of it. Here's a G7 and then here's C minor. Now, if I go to the next position, it'd be. So we'd have D minor 7 flat 5, and then G7, and then C minor. So I'd work that position for a while. And then we would have that position. Do you know what I mean? So that way, I work in each position and try to build up a vocabulary in each position. Then I don't want to play like that all the time, though. I'm just doing that so wherever I'm at, I can see some lines or a little bit of vocabulary. Do you know what I mean? So there's a whole system to doing that. I use the cage system to do that, and well, it's a long conversation, but that's kind of what I'm doing there. So like if I play. So there's that position. Then here I would go. I'm sorry. Then here I would go. Right? I'm just doing it in each position, and I would have. Just doing the arpeggios, and I work up from the chord, and I start adding notes from different scales that I could use. So I could use C minor over the D half diminished chord, and then C harmonic minor over the G7 chord, and then back to C minor. So then after I do that for a while, I've done that for years. So now I can just pretty comfortably see everything no matter where I'm at, and I can flow around the guitar. So I hope that answers your question, but thanks for checking out my Jamplay course. Yeah. That's a great question, man. Does that answer your question? let me know because I'll elaborate further if not. Any good approaches over progression using pentatonics in all five of the patterns? Well, if you're using pentatonics in that kind of case, like let's say if I play over this track here, F sharp minor pentatonics, right? So what I'm doing is I know all five patterns, but I don't want to sound like I'm playing in a box, right? So what you want to do is find strategies for extending those patterns. So these are all pretty common knowledge, but let's say you're playing, F sharp here. So I would probably go. Now I've extended that pattern. And you could do that kind of to all your patterns, you know what I mean? So just flowing around. Now, I use different devices to connect those. Like I'll use little groups of 3. But see, that's one of the beauties of the guitar. Everybody will kind of do things a little bit different than the next person. You might find different ways, but what you want to do is not just only get the 5 boxes down, but you want to start to think about different ways you can connect those boxes, right? So some boxes connect really nicely on the G string. Some boxes connect really nicely on the B string. Do you know what I mean? Or on the high E string. So you should kind of get a fluent at all those to some degree, right? So. So you can do little exercises like what I did there is you can just go. You can do it on those strings, then do it on the next set of strings. And then do it on the next string. Do you know what I mean? And so you start to see the pentatonic scale up and down the guitar this way too. That's the way I connect them. I see the boxes, but then I don't want to sound boxy, so I use some of those little things to connect them. Do you know what I mean? If that makes sense. Yeah, so that's kind of fun. Feeling a little bit of latency here. It's kind of messing me up a little bit, but anyway, so yeah, any other thoughts or questions, let me know. I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you want me to elaborate on things, I will. So yeah, you learn the boxes, and then you try to find creative ways of connecting them. Going up to the next one. This is why a lot of people, when they play pentatonic style, they only use these 3 fingers. Like when I'm playing pentatonics, a lot of times I might just use 3 fingers. That way I have my pinky free to. I can go up and catch another note. Do you know what I mean? In a jam context, let's say you're responsible for to make the rhythm? How would you create a good riff or a backing chord for the band in a rock context? Well, you have different avenues. You have riffs, right? Like, that's a riff, right? Or so you could come up with a riff that can be a theme of a song or a chord progression, like those are like chords, like a chord riff, or like little riffs like that. So, you know, if you're jamming with somebody, when I jam with somebody, I'll just riff out on something for a while and watch it evolve until I feel like it's kind of made its way to something, and then maybe try to push it in another direction. Do you know what I mean? But if you're writing something, then if you're writing a song, I like to combine things together. I like to combine riffs with chord progressions. Do you know what I mean? So, like if you're playing. You know what I mean? So I got a little riff in there, but I got some chords. You just kind of put it all together. You just got to experiment, man. Get creative. You know what I mean? So yeah. No, I don't know that one. I mean, I know of the song. Freebird. I haven't played that song since I was like 17 or something. Something like that. Been a while. So I'm more of a guitar teacher. I play a lot of songs, but I like to answer questions about the mysteries of music. Right, a lot of guitar players that play have a lot of questions. You know what I mean? And they don't know where to go for answers. So let me know if you have any other questions. This is fun, guys. Let me know. Keep me posted. See what I can come up with. Help you guys out. Try to find some fun tracks to play too. Definitely a rock crowd we got here. That's for sure. I've been playing Shadows and Ventures tune with a group of old farts. There's no scope for improvising, so that's frustrating. Can you imagine a world where you can't just let it rip? No, I can't. That's my favorite thing to do, man. Just let it rip. You know what I mean? I got it really quiet here because my wife gets pissed at me. Yeah, so here's the thing, kind of going back to what I was talking about before I kind of had to leave, um, is using different arpeggios, right? So yeah, I'll play some BB King. So like this jam I'm playing over, this rock jam I'm playing over is in F sharp Dorian. So I can use all these different arpeggios, but the key center is really E. So I could use E major 7. I could use F sharp minor, obviously. That's what I'm playing over. I could use G sharp minor, A major 7, B7, C sharp minor 7. So those are kind of all the diatonic arpeggios that go along with the key of E, which is F sharp Dorian. They'll all work. I'm not a super arpeggio guy, but I know all that stuff. All right, some BB King. Yeah, let's get some blues going on here. What kind of stuff you want to hear? I can play blues. That's not my favorite one, but I can play some. Here's some like funky blues. I love this too. I love that stuff. I can do that all night. Yeah, it's an Albert Collins backing track. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love all that stuff, man. I mean, I grew up playing blues, blues rock, you know what I mean? Zeppelin, all that stuff came from the blues. Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, you know, um, B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, all the Kings. I grew up with all that stuff, you know. Over the years, I've gotten more into like jazzy fusion stuff, but that stuff still lives with me. I still love that stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I still, still play it from time to time. You know, I used to actually have a nice little blues band too. Yeah, I do. I do. I like jazz. I like more like modern jazz, jazz fusion. I don't sit around listening to jazz. I steal from jazz. So I know a lot of theory from jazz, and I like some of the concepts that happen with jazz. But I like the sound of rock. You know what I mean? So I know just from my studies over the years, I've learned how jazz works, and then I steal stuff from it and I incorporate it into my own kind of rock blues stuff. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where that comes from. So just sitting around listening or playing like straight ahead jazz, that's not really my vibe. I've done it before. I've done jazz gigs and stuff, but I'm not really the greatest at it. It's not. I don't have the vocabulary for it. You know what I mean? Tosh. I mean, I've heard Peter Tosh, but I've heard that name. I couldn't really tell you any of his music. Do you know what I mean? Sorry. It's just so many great players out there. It's hard to keep up these days. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, let me know if you guys got anything. Like this might be a fun one. This is kind of sounds like more of a minor kind of sound, maybe. It's in B. All right, some more questions. Thanks, guys. The guy from the Whalers. I must look like a lot of people because I always get all these comments. Hey, it's the guy from Better Call Saul. That's one I get all the time. Any cool ways to incorporate major and minor arpeggios in a chord progression? You mean over a chord progression? Yeah, there's all kinds of great ways. Like just because you're playing over a minor chord doesn't mean you have to play a minor arpeggio, right? So like this song is like B minor to E minor. So over the B minor, I could play D major, right? Or I could play F sharp minor. That sounds really great. You know what I mean? So yeah, you just look at the key that you're in. So B minor to E minor tells me I'm in the key of B minor. So B minor is also really D major. So I can use any of those arpeggios and triads from that key. So watch this. I'm gonna just play. Now we're playing in the key of B minor, but really, see, B minor is also D major, right? So D major has two major chords in it. Well, it's three, but it has G major and A major. So those are different inversions of those triads. So I'll just play only just those over the top of it, right? G major and A major triads over B minor and E minor chords. Check it out. See, I was just playing two triads there, G major and A major over B minor, right? See, so that's what theory, knowing a little bit of theory does, is it opens up all these possibilities that you wouldn't normally think of, right? Why would I play that? How come I'm playing that and it sounds good? Well, it's all in the same key. It's all comes from the same source. So it works. It's just copying and pasting different chords over the top. Would you be able to play with a drum track and create a rock progression? Yeah. All right. That's a good challenge. Ah, yeah, I like it. You guys are into it, man. I'm down. Let's try it. So let's try to find, let's say like, let's go 120 drum beat. Let's see what happens. All right, cool. Let's try that. Let's try that beat right there. And let me fool around a little bit and see what I come up with. Kind of boring, but it's cool. You know what I mean? You can do that all day long, come up with all kinds of stuff. Yeah, the G and A major triad over the B minor was a big win for today. So simple, but not something that a mere human would think of. Well, I didn't invent it, but yeah, it's not something you would think about unless you know a little bit of music theory. Like, all you really need to know is the source of a chord or a chord change. So that other song I was playing over was B minor and E minor. So the only places those two chords evolve or are in, the only key is D major. Well, they could be G major too, but that would be like a Phrygian sound, and I don't think that's what that sound is. So I'm thinking, I'm in the key of D. What are the chords in the key of D? Right? That's what you got to think about. All right, so now I'm really going to blow your mind. If you're in the key of D, if you know your chords, you know there's three minor chords in the key of D. There's B minor, there's E minor, and F sharp minor. Now, if you play those chords as pentatonic scales, you never leave the key of D or B minor. So I could use any of those pentatonic scales, right? So let's say I'll play F sharp minor pentatonic over the whole thing. Check it out. Okay, so there the chords are B minor and E minor, and I was just playing F sharp minor pentatonic. Sounds cool, right? It's not what you would think about, though, right? But why does that work? Well, all the notes in an F sharp minor pentatonic are in the key of D or B minor. It's all the same thing, right? It just gives you a different coloration. So let's try it again with E minor pentatonic. Sound a little different, but it'll still work. That was E minor pentatonic over B minor and E minor chord. Of course, I could play B minor, right? Let's see. Where the Sir, I always see you play out. Yeah, I kind of been mostly playing Les Pauls these days. I bought this guitar I've always had a Les Paul in my arsenal, so to speak, but I got this guitar about 10 years ago, and it reinvigorated my love of the Les Paul. You know what I mean? It just feels so comfortable to play. I love the sound. Les Pauls used to always infuriate me because they'd never stay in tune, but I kind of cracked the code how to keep them in tune, so which is great. So now I feel comfortable playing them, and I can be free. A lot of times I would be afraid to bend a G string because it would go out of tune, right? So anyway, so you got three minor pentatonics, right? You got B minor, you've got E minor, and F sharp minor that are all in the key of B minor. So you can mix and match those, right? So now I'll just play kind of a combination of them. Do you know what I mean? So there, I'm just playing those three pentatonics, just different shapes, kind of copied and pasted over each other. And there, when I do that, I'll get all the notes of the B minor scale, but I just won't be playing it like a scale. Do you know, I'm playing it like a pentatonic sound. Have you heard of String Butler? It's one of those on my Les Paul to tame the tuning. Mainly, I've never heard of that, no. What I started doing is I just make sure now I use bone nuts all the time. And I always lube them whenever I put new strings on. And also, you got to bring it to the right guy that knows how to cut the nut and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But it stays in tune pretty good. Now, my newer one, I haven't put a bone nut on it yet, and it stays in tune okay. But, eventually I'll change the nut on that and get, I think the bone nut sounds better too. So I hope that makes sense, y'all. I'm going to have to go here pretty soon. Okay, here's another example. So I kind of switched sounds on us a little bit, but this is um, gear question. What kind of overdrive do you prefer or use? I've gone through a lot of overdrives over the years. It really depends on what you're using the overdrive for. Are you using it as your core sound, or are you using it as a push pedal into an amp to get more gain or tighten up the low end? Like if you're trying to do that, like let's say you have a nice kind of crunchy sound like this, and you want to get the low end just a little tighter, maybe a tube screamer, or I actually like the Klon style pedal better for that. As a standalone pedal, I don't really like distortion pedals too much, but I like overdrive pedals, like an always on kind of thing. One of my favorites is a BB preamp. It's kind of sounds kind of like a Marshall amp kind of vibe, you know what I mean? But then I can push it with another pedal. So I kind of treat it like it's my amp. Do you know what I mean? Like let's say if I'm going into a Fender amp that's clean, completely clean, I'll use the BB preamp as kind of my main tone, and then I'll push it with like maybe like a Klon style pedal, like the Tumnus is what I have. And then I usually have a clean boost after it so I can boost the overall volume for solos. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of the way it's more, for me, it's more of about stacking. Now, I've been experimenting with other overdrives here lately, and I have the Protein overdrive. I have that on my board right now. And it's really cool, but it's really sounds really good, but it's not really my style. I can probably fire it up if you want to hear it. Let's see. I'll put it on my clean. So there's my clean sound. Now, here's the green side of it, which is a little heavier. And then there's more of a clean boost side on it. It's pretty cool, but to me, it's a little tubby sounding. That's the Bogner. That's got a little bit more mid focus, which I like. I'd mostly thought about the chord of the moment, so the idea of specific subset of the scale of the key, such as the F sharp pentatonic, seems to have a lot of magic. Thanks. I'll go and explore. Yeah, yeah, right. So you got to look at like the overarching sound you're in and what are the possibilities in that sound. Okay, so I changed sounds here. I'm in D7. So D7, you might play D Mixolydian, right? Now D Mixolydian is really G. It's the key of G. So in the key of G, I have three major chords. I have G major, C major, and D major. So I'll just play D major and C major triads over the top of this. You'll see what I mean. It works. It sounds really cool. All right, did you hear that? So the thought process there is going, well, what's the key I'm in? D Mixolydian, I'm in the key of G, right? That's the parent scale. What are the chords in that scale? Do you know what I mean? So that means I could use those chords superimposed over the top of that. There, I just played C and D, ping ponging, just different inversions. Now you could also go, well, I'm in the key of G major. That's the key I'm in. So I've got three minor chords. I got A minor, B minor, and E minor. So I could use those three pentatonic scales, right? So let's try them. So the first one, let's say A minor. I'll play A minor over this D7 groove, right? All right, that's A minor pentatonic. I just played over D7, all right? Now I'll play B minor. Well, B minor is D major, but you'll hear it. Okay, that's the obvious one because D7 is a D major chord. Now the other one is E minor, right? Let's see what E minor sounds like over the top of this. E minor pentatonic. Now I'll start mixing them. So there I was mixing three different minor pentatonic scales, A minor, B minor, and E minor. Eventually we'll play all the notes in the key of G, and which is D mixolydian. It's all the same, right? That's called pentatonic substitution. Do you know what I mean? So I don't really pursue one avenue all the time. I'm always mixing it up. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll use that. Sometimes I'll use triads. Sometimes I'll just play blues over it. You know, it all sounds good. So it just gives me all these different avenues of expression. That's what I'm really looking for. So does that make sense? Ha ha. Wow, thanks for the gift, man. I really appreciate that. I'm not soliciting for gifts, but man, everything helps, man. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So you see, all that's kind of a combination. I'll show you some really, I got some secrets, man. I'm telling you right now, I've been studying this stuff for decades, right? So, you know, when you're playing, here's a D9 chord, right? That's what this is kind of. Okay, so do you see this chord that is inside of the D9? This is F sharp minor 7 flat 5. So I can play that arpeggio. Sounds great, right? There's A minor right there, so I can play A minor arpeggio. So much stuff there. But I can take my F sharp minor pentatonic and flat the 5. So check this out. So right there, that's a modified pentatonic. That's taking an F sharp minor pentatonic and lowering the 5th. So it's F sharp minor flat 5 pentatonic. And that sounds great over that D7 chord. Ooh, that's the good stuff. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the gift, Jeff. I really appreciate that. I'm like to having fun, but you guys, if you have, if you want to get more of this, I have a Patreon site, which you can. There's links all over my YouTube channel to my Patreon site, and it's pretty cheap, really. Especially for the amount of work I put into it. I'm up. That's what I'm doing today. I've just been creating new videos. I usually do them in batches. I do like 3 or 4 of them, so I can schedule them. So I'm not having to do it every week. I usually take a day or two every month, and I do a batch of them, and then I edit them and do, if there's tabs and all that stuff, I do all that stuff. It takes me a couple days and then it's uploaded. But I have different tiers. So if you're more of a beginner, or I don't do beginner, but more intermediate, you could take a lower tier. If you want to get into this kind of this more advanced stuff, then I would go for a upper tier. And it's definitely a lot cheaper than taking one lesson from me, man. I'm telling you right now. So it's just something to consider if you're a guitar player. But I'm going to get rocking out of here. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate all the support. Jeff, thanks again. Look for me more on here because I got this new device. I did a video on this. It's on my channel. I just got this device not too long ago. And it allows you to go from your computer into the phone so you get a good stereo sound. That was always the thing that kept me from wanting to do live streaming on my phone, is I didn't like the way it sounded. It was always tough. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of a nitpicky about sonic stuff, you know. So now hopefully on your end this sounds pretty good. You get a nice kind of stereo thing, and I can play to the backing tracks, and then you can attach a mic to it too. So it's a cool little device. So if you ever want to get into streaming or even just making videos on your phone, this is I bought it with my own money. I'm not trying to shill it or anything like that, but it's pretty cool. All right, gang, I got to get going. I'll see you next time. Look for me next time. I'll be back soon.